Hey everybody, this is Jason Ostrowski, and welcome to another edition of the Everything Real Estate Podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to have with us Joe Lacerda from the Lacerda Team out of our Watchung office. Joe and his team have a proven track record of success, earning Chairman's Circle Platinum and the New Jersey Circle of Excellence Platinum Award levels for 2023. In this episode, we'll delve into real estate from a next-gen perspective, exploring how emerging technologies, evolving market dynamics, and shifting consumer behaviors are reshaping the way a new generation does business in our industry. Joe brings invaluable insights into how the next generation of real estate professionals is navigating and influencing these changes. We'll talk about all these things and more today with Joe. So let's dive into real estate from a next-gen perspective, and we'll pick it up on the other side. Joe, you and I met at our most recent pickleball tournament where no one was seriously injured during our 2 hours of playing time, so that's a big win for everybody involved. And over the free pizza that you and I enjoyed afterwards, you and I got to talking a little bit about real estate and how you go about your business. And I was excited to have you here today on the podcast. So how is it going up there in the Watchung area? Did I say that right? I think I did, right?
Yeah, that's where the office is located. So, everything's going really good. And it was awesome meeting you at the pickleball tournament. I had a lot of fun. But, things are good. And, we're kind of in like that central North Jersey. So, like some people central, some people north, about 45 minutes or so from the city. And, market's still very competitive up here.
I am surprised to see like there's some seasonality, and then I feel like there's also properties that are going under contract very quickly. So it's kind of a mixed bag where we are, but overall things are still remaining strong, and I think 2025 is going to be a great year for everybody. So I'd like to talk about or start by talking in the context of when I met you, and my kind of inclination was to call you kind of like the next gen realtor, right? We talked off camera that, you got this baby face going on. You're a young guy, you're in your early 30s. And, I would define someone as a next gen realtor as someone who may do things a little bit differently to gain business than maybe the old heads like me out here, right? And someone who is not only comfortable with video and social media, but is savvy on how to use that to have some content marketing. And it doesn't mean that's strictly what you do, because you do a little bit of everything, but you are in that space. You have a lot of followers on Instagram. I've seen some of your video. You're very comfortable in front of the camera. So I wanted your perspective today, because you're part of your team with your parents, which I know how that goes. My mother's been in real estate forever, and she's now part of my team. But your parents may do things a little bit differently and see things a little bit differently than you do. And so I want to explore that, because together you are very successful. But there may be some dynamics in between all of you that there may be some disagreements as well, right? On Absolutely. How you do things as opposed to how they do things. So things tend to move pretty quickly in our business. So you've been in the business 10 years now. You're still a younger agent in terms of age. And so my first question to you is, since everything is always changing, in your opinion, what has been the biggest fundamental difference in the way that you do business since you've started selling real estate?
Yeah, I would say probably just watching how much social media and video has become, a tool that you can use to enhance your business. Like you said, I do a lot of the basics. I'm a little bit old school and old soul in certain ways. So I still think, face-to-face interaction, picking up the phone and calling clients, that type of stuff is always going to be the bread and butter. But I'm starting to use video more to enhance, just our business. And I think, me and I have another team member, Michelle, who's more in this age range, whereas like the parents are definitely the baby boomers, and So we're like slowly adapting more and more of this, but I would say video strictly because what's so great about social media is it's free, so you could really enhance and be on there. And a lot of people are looking at it. Maybe you're not, when you're first starting out, it's like tough because you're like, I don't know exactly what to say, or, it's uncomfortable. But over time, you get more comfortable and you start noticing like, oh, wow, like 200 people viewed this video, or like, oh, wow, 400 people saw this. So that's like really cool and a great tool, I think.
Yeah, I told you how I was at my holiday party last night, and I had an agent, talking to me about video, and kind of picking my brain on what to do in terms of content, and where they feel comfortable. And we do see, and I agree with you. I mean, the biggest change since I've started, I mean, there's been a lot of changes, but the advent of social media and marketing on social media, and even doing professional videos for your listings. I see that you do some of them. I do them as well. Like I have a videographer. I know that there's agents out there who vlog and have like a video content creator, follow them everywhere. Like that's crazy to me. Like real estate has kind of gotten out of hand in that way. And
Yeah.
so I do share your kind of like mixing that old school with new school, stuff. I feel like that mix tends to work best. For if you cover all your bases and saturate yourself everywhere, then you're going to get business out of it. And I'd like to know, speaking of video, because your parents have been in the real estate world for a long time now, and they are highly successful agents in their own right. They've built a great client base. Obviously, over the span of years, there's tried and true things that work for them. So they have their way of doing business, and so do you. So being an agent in this new generation that I'm speaking about, how is your business different from theirs in the way you market yourself or try to gain new business?
Yeah, I would say probably the biggest difference is documenting, what I'm doing. So, I think a big change is like, prior, our parents, they would have a client appreciation party, right? And I'm sure, whether it be at the movie theater or like, having an ice cream social, back in the day, you didn't document it, right? Like there wasn't social media. So I think now what's something that I like doing is making sure it's documented that day. Or like even if I'm doing like a pop by, like giving some pop bys to our clients, putting that story on social media on Instagram. I think that's something that I'm incorporating that, my parents aren't.
I literally just had a client appreciation event at a movie theater this past weekend. And I always fall down when it comes time to document it the way that I should. And I know better. But sometimes I get caught up in it like I'm talking to my clients and I'm not thinking about creating that content to put out in order to gain more business out of it. And so we had a couple pictures, but like what we need is like video of somebody like me talking to clients so I can put that out there. Like this past summer, we have a block party every year and I sponsor like an ice cream truck for the kids every year. And like there's like nothing on social media about it. And it's a wasted opportunity. And I'm glad that you brought that up because it's definitely something that we always have to think in the realm of how this is going to help our business and something that potentially could be viewed by a lot of people in order to gain more business. So I think that's a great thing because I feel like my age in my mid 40s, I feel like I straddle the line between new and old school. And a lot of times that old school mentality kind of creeps in and I don't think about things that I should be thinking about. And then I'm like, I should have done that, and I have to be better about it. So speaking of technology, I wanted to touch base about virtual tools.
Yep.
And so the latest, obviously the latest shift in the real estate industry is AI driven analytics and how they change the way that we do things. Do you, just out of curiosity, are you using any kind of AI tools in your business currently? It's not something that you and I talked about, but I'm just wondering if you employ them at all in what you do.
Yeah. So, I do Chat GPT for sure. I would like to use it even more and kind of get more skilled at it. I wouldn't say I'm a power user yet, but I use it multiple times a week. Definitely for like the, emails, structuring things, video scripts, property descriptions, but also I think I'm starting to get into like the custom GPTs a bit,
Yeah.
where,
Yeah.
even in our company, Rajiv, made a listing custom GPT. I was able to pull a marketing plan, and then I, used that on CMAs recently, where I'm like, well, this is the 14-day marketing plan when I list your house that I'm going to do. And it shows some of these things that we're talking about, like property video tours, which I'd love to touch upon, which I think is really important in today's market.
When I go out to a listing now, I use Rajiv's custom GPTs, which are amazing, and the 30-day marketing plan or 14-day marketing, but however long you want it to be, it day by day has different things that you can show that potential seller that you're going to be doing for them, and it's such a like a cheat code. It's like amazing what it can do for you, and I just find myself using it more and more. It's pretty amazing. But I know, AI and all of that space. I know the agents are probably tired of hearing about it right now, but
Yeah.
we have to beat it to death because a lot of agents still aren't using it. And so, Rajiv's podcast is a great way to actually get into that AI space and learn more about it. But it's where everything is now and where everything's going. So,
Yeah.
you have to use it in today's business. So let's talk about that video in the social media space, doing property videos and kind of what you're doing right now. Because I did watch some of your property videos, and actually, you and I share a lot of that kind of interest in doing property showcase videos, not only for that listing, but obviously it's getting you out there as well in front of the camera. So let's talk a little bit about what you do and kind of how you use that to your advantage.
Yeah. So the property video tour, what's great about it is, you can make them slightly different each time if you feel comfortable where you want to make it, this is exactly how I do it. Sometimes it could just be, hey, welcome to 123 Main Street. We're listed here at, X amount of price, and come on in and come see the home. And then, from there, it's just the video is taking pictures and going through the tour of the home. What I love doing, with the video tours, I like changing it up a little bit. I do sometimes the outside. I like have a walk, walking and talking. I just think it's great, and what's so nice is like, I recently went on a CMA, and I'm from a small town, and I know a lot of people, and there's a lot of connections. So I happen to know them prior, but we were talking about their home, and then we were talking about the market, and they're like, oh yeah, like that house. Yeah, I saw your video. I saw the property tour video that you did. So they already like knew about that property. And I, looked and I saw that there was 1,000 views on Facebook. So what's so amazing is like that old school stuff is so important, the face-to-face interaction. But what's amazing about video is just like the exposure, like how many people are seeing, like in a matter of a few days, what I would have had to do on the old school way to like let people know about this home. I reached this amount of people that quickly. So that's why it doesn't necessarily, these people that are viewing it might not be looking for a home, but like it's just good branding. It's good exposure.
Well, I do think that if I could coalesce like what the next gen is that they're always thinking about that brand, right? I feel like that's the mentality now. How can I put my brand out there and get myself noticed? And I think that's the difference in mentality between, say, the old school stuff and the new school stuff. And I think we always have to be thinking about our brand in general. And if the video looks great, like you said, it gets more traction because it has that professional HGTV feel to it. So I want to give a shout out actually to my colleague Nicole Murphy, who has been on the podcast this year. She started doing video, and she paid a videographer to record a series of videos about, she specializes in new construction, and they look unbelievable. And I actually was really jealous of the way that she did them because they're fantastic. But for someone just starting out, and she was very nervous about doing it, And now she looks, ultra professional. She knows what she's talking about. She has intriguing topics and content, and she's getting a ton of traction from it. And so I just want to give a shout out to her because that's something that we can all be doing if you just invest a little time and effort into actually doing it, because we talk about this stuff every day, all day. It's not rocket science. We're just putting it on video now, and that's it, right?
Absolutely. I think that's fantastic. And, even when you're first starting out, I think some people get a little bit like, oh, you have to hire a videographer. Like, oh, this is going to be a lot of money. And oh my gosh, like I'm not comfortable on video. It could be overwhelming, but I think just starting is like the biggest thing. If you can just start and yeah, that first video, it might not be what you want it to be, but it's like the more comfortable you get. And agent within our company, Berkshire Hathaway, was talking with him, Maxwell Stevens. He was on the podcast with Rajiv, and he said, "Be scared and do it anyway." So I just wanted to give him credit, but I really love that because I think it's all about just starting, and you could always just work at it yourself, and then eventually it'll elevate over time.
Well, it's like anything else. When we were starting out in real estate, I mean, I was scared to death to write my first agreement of sale. And I didn't know what I was doing. And you kind of feel your way in the dark and you get a little help from this person and that. It's the same concept. Like just get out there and do it. It's not a big deal. In fact, there's not hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line when you're actually doing video. It's much easier for us, or should be much easier. So just get out there and do it. And I know it's easy for you because you do a little acting outside of real estate. And in fact, you just shot a commercial in Times Square, which was really cool that I saw on Instagram. So being that so many real estate agents on social media now think that they're superstars in front of the camera, like some go the opposite direction of what we're talking about. And everything is about, their own, the branding to the nth degree. So how has your comfort with acting on camera helped your real estate career, if at all, with social media?
Yeah, I think it's nice to have the background because I'm on camera a lot. I'm usually working with scripts, so memorization, things like that. And then I think just like technical aspects, like opening yourself up to camera, like you could do certain things where the camera it's going to look a little bit better. Or like we were talking about with like the walk and talk, there's times where I'm acting in walk and talk scenes, and I think if you could incorporate, I know this is a little more, it could be a little bit more advanced on the video side, but if you can incorporate walking and talking or creating some more like fun tidbits, I mean, there's so many ideas that you could bring to the table. I saw a really cool video where someone did like a quick video property tour, and they definitely had a professional videographer, but they were like going around the house and being like, this is the kitchen, and then like dining room, and they had the camera going with it. And it was so engaging to watch because it was like motion picture. I mean, this is like what it is, like video. So like when you can incorporate that. But yeah, it definitely has helped me just being more comfortable, being around it.
Well, I think I had mentioned that on what you're referencing on a different podcast, the speed tour that I can't remember what his name is. It's hilarious. Like I cracked up. Sometimes he like falls, like he slips on the carpet, it falls down, and it just keeps running through the house, which I think is like hysterically funny, but it is so engaging. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the mentality, like people, like the creativeness is what I really appreciate and respect about people out there doing business right now. Some of the ideas you're like, oh my God, that's like such a great, it's so simple, but it's such a great idea to incorporate into your business. And then you want to steal that idea and, rip it off and do it yourself. So I want to get a little bit into kind of data analytics and how you're using them in your business. Because I have seen some of your video you're providing in terms of content. You're providing statistics out there for your target market area. Mm-hmm. And so data analytics now provide deeper market insights. So how do you leverage the information to guide your clients, and how does it enhance the decision-making process compared to traditional methods of marketing?
Yeah, so I would say, there's so many great tools now whether it be through the MLS, the way it pulls statistics, or sites such as like Keeping Current Matters. But there's so much information out there that I try to look it over and kind of break it down for the audience or the clients out there, and just kind of showing like the way the market is. So like, I think there's a lot of buyers out there. Some of them are not necessarily ready to buy the house yet, but they're looking, open houses, things such as that. I think they need to know the market. I think they need to know that it's competitive right now, that, homes are going over asking price for the most part. So I think like breaking down these statistics, I always try for my market stats just to kind of, show the days on market, show, how quickly homes are selling, showing and kind of sharing stories about how many offers properties are getting typically today.
Being that local market expert always has value. And like you said, the cheapest way to get out that value to people is typically through social media because it's free.
Mm-hmm.
And you're on video, so people stop and engage with that kind of stuff, especially if they're just starting out. Like you said, they might not be super serious just yet, but they're gaining information.
Right.
And they're kind of gearing up to that point. And so having those market stats mixed in with something fun and intriguing is always like the best mix, I feel like, for us as agents, because you're showing rather than telling, number one. And number two, your personality gets to shine through. And I think those are the two things that people are looking for, is someone they connect with, but also has knowledge. And so I think you do a great job with that. So I also want to talk about some old school stuff, because you said, you're an old school soul when it comes to some of these marketing things, and so am I. And so I am a huge proponent of networking still. And networking remains crucial in real estate. So, how do you personally balance face-to-face interactions with digital networking opportunities to build and maintain professional relationships? So how do you kind of meld the two? What are you doing for networking?
Yeah. So face to face for sure. I try to always, recently, this past Sunday, I volunteered in the local community. They had like a celebration for a tree lighting in my hometown. So really wanted to, I always like to find time to volunteer and give back when I can. And this was just like a way also to be in the community. I saw a couple familiar faces, and I think they know me from town too. Is like, oh yeah, like Joe and the Lacerda team are in the South Plainfield area, like they're in real estate. So that's one way. I would say investor like meetups. I go to real estate actual investor meetups in person. That's something that I like to do, that's have been around for a long time. I think Zoom is like huge, right? So whether it's Google Meets or Zoom, it's a pretty incredible, like, I know a lot of people are busy, sometimes it could be even hard to like get to the coffee shop, maybe young kids, just life is crazy. So I've just been like, hey, you want to like jump on a Zoom call to catch up, with certain people? That's been, since the pandemic, I mean, that's been really, really big. And then I think just calling people, I'm a part of, a graduation of like Ninja. I don't know if you've been the same, but like the Ford calls, this year alone, I've probably done at least over 500 calls to my database. I try, I have kind of certain goals where I want to achieve, like I have to do X amount of calls, and then also note cards. I'm constantly writing personal notes. That's like another old school thing I do.
Yeah, you're speaking my language, because I actually am a ninja. I went out to, and I've referenced this before on the podcast, but it was a turning point in my career to go out to actually Colorado, take the ninja courses out there with Larry Kendall. And he's just like real estate Yoda. I mean, he's just amazing. But funny that you mentioned that, because I told my wife that I'm really going to concentrate this year on doing the Ninja 9 every day. And making sure that I do the things that are going to get me business old school wise, as well as mixing in that new school stuff. And so I'm making a concerted effort this year to make my phone calls, to check out my warm list, to write those notes like you talk about, to get out in the community, do more stuff there. I think, again, saturating the market with yourself but also doing things for other people. You had mentioned volunteering and being able to do that in your community. It's a win-win for everybody. It's a win for your business, and it's also a win for the community if you can get out there and help people, you know? So I like to think of things like in that perspective. And it seems like you're doing a lot of that. So, you know, with the availability of online property information, how is your role as an agent in educating and advising clients compared to the past? You know, I do think, and I want to kind of, I guess, go into further detail with this. I'm kind of referencing like people's access to Zillow, Realtor.com, all these AVMs, all these algorithms that, you know, they see out there. How are you guiding your clients through kind of maybe the misinformation, disinformation? You know, what are you kind of saying to politely kind of push back on some of these things?
Yeah. So what's so different, Jason, like, you know, especially when we first started, like even 10, 11 years ago when I was first going, it's like I was the one kind of giving them the properties, like, you know, hey, what about this one? What about this one? What's changed so much is that I'd say like 8 out of 10 times the client is picking the properties because, you know, I'll have them set up on searches through the MLS, but they're on Zillow and they're constantly looking at that. And there's so much information out there, but I think we just have to be super, super detailed in what we do. And we have all the tools now to be able to do that. So like, even when I first started, like Google Maps now is like so enhanced where, you know, I do aerial views. I'm checking like, you know, is there high tension wires nearby or railroad tracks nearby? What is in the community? How close is it to the downtown? Oh, it's 0.5 miles from the downtown. They told me that they want to be within a 15-minute walk from the downtown. So like all these sort of things, you know, I'm doing constantly. And just, I think we just have to be so detailed because they're going to be looking at properties and Zillow sometimes might not have all the information or it's outdated. So I have to pull from there and do that extra step prior because I don't want them to go see the property. And after we've had a conversation and then they're like, oh, Joe, you know, I didn't really want that. And it's amazing too, like over time, we get to learn about our clients and the experience. But, you know, one thing that's funny is like, you know, the layout of the home. Sometimes on the first level, there might not be a bathroom. And that's like a game changer. You know, they didn't see that though on Zillow. You know, they're like, oh, we do need a bathroom. Or, you know, it's 2 bathrooms and they only have showers. They don't have a tub, but they have kids and they need a tub, you know, and you could just really look through every photo. I think it's just being really detailed and specific when looking for our clients.
Yeah, I had a client recently that they were coming from out of state and they sent me literally a list of like 100 houses throughout the entire area.
Oh
And
my
I was
gosh.
like, how am I gonna politely deal with this? You know, but it is that attention to detail. Like I sorted them through like, okay, this is a busy road. Okay, there's railroad tracks in the back of this, as you had mentioned. Okay,
Yep.
this is close to a lot of commercial or industrial properties. I'm not sure that you want this. So we really pared it down based on those details. But it is the attention to detail that makes all the difference because obviously you don't want to be on a wild goose chase, you know, kind of going to these properties that you know your clients are not going to buy, you
Yeah.
know, based on these factors. Also, you know, when I go to a listing appointment, you may do the same thing. I always, always, always check out multiple algorithms to see what the quote unquote zestimate or the estimated price is going to be. So I come prepared with the Zillow, you know, price. I have the realtor.com. I'll go on, you know, maybe Redfin, homes.com just to see what they're seeing in the marketplace. So if I do need to push back at all, I can politely, you know, say, hey, listen, well, Zillow has this, but then realtor.com has this. And the difference is $75,000. So you can see why you shouldn't trust these algorithms, you know, and kind of push back politely that way. And it seems to be effective. So I almost like turn the tides in terms of what they're seeing and using it against the online platforms that are the bane of our existence at this point in our lives. So, all right. I have one more question for you before we get out of here. So I was Google stalking you recently and found that you are on IMDb. And it kind of blew me away. And I was like, Joe is on IMDb. That is so cool. And you have multiple credits on the website. You've been in a lot of stuff. And I did not know that. So I was pretty impressed, number one. And so I have a two-part question for you to finish up. So number one, if you had the opportunity to act with any actor of your choosing, who would it be? Number one. And number two, do you find that your acting skills help you act like you're enjoying talking to appraisers and township inspectors?
Oh, those are good questions. One, I'd say, right now, that it changes from time to time, but I would love to. There's a show called Severance on Apple TV right now, and hopefully season 2 is coming out really soon. But just to be able to work with Ben Stiller, maybe not even acting, but to be directed by him and working in Severance would be like a dream. I think that show is just incredible, and I was like blown away by the first season. For number two, for sure, I think the acting skills and yeah, just bringing my own personality, talking with these inspectors in town. I think what's so great is, especially not just for acting, but like real estate, right, Jason? We're constantly talking with people, and we're working with different types of clients. We have our very statistic driven analytical clients, and then we have our other clients that are more from the gut, and I think that I always try to pick up on their body language and the personalized experience, because every client's different. So I'm going to always cater to them in a different way, and one thing I just wanted to bring up a little prior we were talking about is I like asking a lot of questions now. I think as we're getting more seasons in real estate, asking questions is like very important. And I always ask now, what's your preferred method of communication? Because like 30 years ago, you pick up the phone, like that's what it was, but now it's like, do you prefer texting? Do you want to email? Do you want to call? I want to know what they like, and I will definitely cater towards that because, everyone's living different lives, and people need, we need to know how they want to communicate.
Without a doubt. I agree with you 110%. I mean, I have a client right now. She's on the older side. She doesn't have email. And so that makes for a unique challenge in the way that we do business nowadays. I have to go see her every time that we have to sign an addendum or get something changed.
That's old school.
And it literally is like going back 20 years in real estate, but we always used to do that. So I'm fine. I'm fine with that. That's fine. But you are so right that there are certain people that I get a little frustrated from time to time when all they want to do is text, where it really does call for a phone call to kind of explain the nuance of a situation. But you're right. We have to cater and kind of be where they are and work around our business to cater to them because they are our clients and they deserve to be treated how they want to be treated. So I had to ask you that question to finish up. Originally, I was going to ask you if your acting skills help you act like you're enjoying an open house, but I was like, I thought that was like a little too harsh. Maybe you do enjoy open houses. I don't know.
Yeah, I actually, I do enjoy open houses. Obviously sometimes they could get really busy these days, but I think open houses, this is something I quickly just to touch upon is that I think they're great ways still. It's an old school way, but meeting people in person, I think it also makes you more comfortable. When you're getting in the market, you're talking about homes, you're talking with clients, you're meeting people that might be, the Gen Z, you might be meeting people that are baby boomers. So you're just getting a lot of exposure to the buyers and who's out there buying right now.
It's definitely great practice. My problem is that during football season, so I'm like a huge Eagles fan. If I have an open, I've learned not to have open houses on Sunday from like 1 to 3 during football season. But early in my career, I used to get really angry that people would show up to the open house during like an Eagles game. I'd be like, "What are you doing here? Like, go home and watch the game." Like I'd be like incredulous about it. I'm like, why is this person here? Meanwhile, I could be picking them up as clients and I'm angry that they're coming through my open house. So, you live and learn. Now I've kind of chilled out a little bit with that, but
Yeah, and what's pretty crazy too, right, is with open houses, it used to be that 1 to 4 p.m. Sundays, right? Like that's what it was when I was a little kid. My parents were in real estate. I was always been surrounded by it. Sunday, 1 to 4. That's what it was. Like it just with that. But now it's amazing. I think it's like, it could be 11 to 2 on a Saturday. It could be 10 to 1. Like it's been really cool how people have, adopted like different ways of going about even the open house per se.
Yeah, we see them during the weekdays a lot now down
Yeah.
here, which is really cool. I love that idea. Like you had mentioned Saturdays. Saturdays are a great opportunity. At least you got your Sundays free, hopefully. You may be showing houses on Sunday, but switching it up a little bit helps you to stand out, which I really like as well. So
Yeah.
anyway, Joe, thank you for doing this. I really enjoyed our time together today. Thank you for sharing your perspective. Much continued success to you and your team. I'm sure that I'll be seeing you at the next pickleball tournament. I think we're doing the next one in Ewing, but hopefully you and I will get together sometime before that happens and we can, chat it up some more.
Absolutely, Jason. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. And much success to you too.
That was the podcast with Joe Lacerda. It was great talking to Joe. Here are a few takeaways that I had during our conversation together. Number one, the biggest thing that struck me is that even though Joe is that next-gen realtor and he takes advantage of free mediums like social media, he's great in front of the camera, he knows how to work the system in order to get more business that's low cost and effective, he still maintains the tried and true methods of building relationships with people. And that is the biggest thing that stuck out with me, is that in this business, you can be great at social media, you can be great at content, but you may be missing that connection with your people. And Joe bridges that gap beautifully between being on social media and doing things an old school way, quote unquote, to get out there and be where your people are. Make sure that you're staying in touch with them. Make sure that you're making your phone calls, that you're in front of them face to face. And Joe does that extremely well, and that works to his team's benefit. Number two, Joe brings up a great point during the course of the podcast, talking about how consumers, buyers, and sellers have access to so much information about the real estate market nowadays. And it's our job, the way that we can work that into our business and show our value, is to know our local marketplace. And just because you have information and data at your fingertips does not mean that you necessarily know how to interpret that data as a professional would. And that's where we come in. And Joe talks about knowing his local market, being that local market expert, and showing his people how to use that data correctly to achieve their real estate goals. Last but not least, one thing that has changed over time, and I think Joe speaks about this very well, is the way that we communicate with our clients and our clients communicate with us has changed. And whatever way our clients choose to communicate is where we need to meet them, whether that is through texting. I know some clients of mine, I text with them about 90% of the time because they don't like to talk on the phone. Some people will still prefer a phone call. I have a client right now that does not have an email address, so it makes it incredibly difficult to sign forms through DocuSign. I have to actually physically go and meet them where they are. Whatever way your clients want to communicate, we as agents have to adapt to the way that they do things. And I think that is a big change in our industry from where we used to be, say, 15 years ago, even 10 years ago. There are so many ways that we can communicate with our clients. We have to do our job to meet them with the medium of their choice. Well, that's it for today's episode. We will be back in another couple of weeks with a new topic, a new guest. And as always, if you want to hear a topic that we haven't covered yet, please reach out to me, jason.ostrowski@foxroach.com. And if you haven't liked and subscribed to the podcast or left us a review yet, please do so. It helps us to reach more people. Once again, this is Jason Ostrowski saying stay safe out there, stay selling, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Everything Real Estate Podcast.